Hello, and welcome to a very special Halloween edition of B.T.F.O. It's not actually Halloween, but this is probably the closest we're going to get. Next one's going to be in November, so for this B.T.F.O, I'm going to be talking about the original Invisible Man. The Invisible Man returns, and Abbott and Costello meet the Invisible Man. These films, of course, are classics, or at least some of them, and I watched them on Hugh from the Capital O podcast. I watched them on his recommendation. At least the first two he recommends. I don't know if he has stated his thoughts on Abbott and Costello meet the Invisible Man, but so I guess we'll just start at the beginning, the original Invisible Man. I quite like it. I'm not sure how they accomplished the invisible effects at the time. But it looks really good, especially that first film. And it doesn't seem like they're afraid to show the invisible effects, which is really nice. There's a lot of having him take off the bandages and then having him move stuff around, and there's a lot of humor in it too, which, I was kind of surprised by it. The one that I really like is they go, the mob of people, they've got the one cop in the town to go arrest the Invisible Man, and they walk in on him taking off his clothes, and so he's just a shirt floating around. And one of the mobsters is like, "Cuff him." And the cop goes, "How am I supposed to cuff just a bloody shirt?" Or something like that. It's just really funny. Or it's like, oh yeah, it's comedy and it works. And I was really surprised because I've been checking out a lot of the classic old monster movies, and I believe The Invisible Man and The Invisible Man Returns are both, I think, 72 minutes. And the original Dracula is 74 minutes. Now, the original Dracula drags like hell. And, it feels a lot longer than barely over an hour. Whereas the original Invisible Man and The Invisible Man Returns, they both feel pretty there's definitely, they don't waste any of the time that they have, and they don't take up more time than they need to. The most I could say is that in the original Invisible Man, there is kind of a after the second act, there's a beginning to the third act where they're just establishing different ways that they could try and catch, which is all fine and dandy. It's good to establish those things, but that kind of felt like it was taking a bit longer than it might to. But yeah, the first Invisible Man, the guy just invents the serum, and it turns him invisible, but he's also slow. Eventually, as the plot progresses, you see him kind of break down, and he's decided that he wants to take followers. There are a lot of lines that end up getting recycled through the Invisible. I do find it a little cringe that it's oh yeah, when they go mad, you can tell because they all give the same. Like, that's a little, like, okay, I feel like we could have changed that up. I feel like it should have matched their different personalities, um, but it's the 40s, so I guess people weren't ready for that. Um, but yeah, so he just ends up going mad, and then they catch him in like a barn while it's snowing. So they light the barn on fire, and they like wait for him to come out. All the cops are like in a big circle around the barn, and then when they see him moving around, they end up shooting him, and then he like falls to the ground, and they're able to take him to a hospital and like restrain him, and then on his deathbed he turns visible again so that he can like say goodbye to his loved ones, and then he dies. The end. Then the Invisible Man Returns is probably my favorite out of the three, because it's Vincent Price as the second Invisible Man, and he does a really good job at like being very charismatic, and the Invisible Man Returns feels like it does a bit more with the concept than the original Invisible Man, because in the original, like, it's fine, you need to have someone invent the invisible serum, and like that's a good enough reason of why not turn invisible. But the second one pushes it forward, where the reason why the second Invisible Man is created is because I believe it's the brother of the first Invisible Man works for the person who will become the second Invisible Man, Vincent Price. I forget his character's name, but Vincent Price has been set up and framed for a murder of his brother, of Vincent Price's brother, that he didn't commit. And so the Invisible Man's brother gives Vincent Price the serum so that he can escape from jail and find the real killer. Like, it's really neat because they definitely do a lot more. Humor is for sure one thing that they do a lot more of, and it's also really neat where almost immediately, because they established pretty clearly that like, no, he didn't actually murder his brother, and so when he's finding these people who did like actually murder his brother, you're on the Invisible Man's side as he's like tormenting these people, and then like it also plays on kind of the horror of you slowly start to see through like his actions that like, oh, he is going a bit overboard here, like, oh, he might be going a little mad, like, and eventually they make him give the speech, which that's, I wish that it would have changed for him. But like, he is able to be a bit more clever and like actually get out of being restrained and stuff. And like, yeah, the humor in this I find really funny, where like there's a cop duo outside of this house that they like think he's in, or they one of the guys that he's after is in, and so they're like all outside, and one of them's like, oi, like they said to shoot on sight, but how's we supposed to do that when he's invisible? Then like later they think they hear something, and so one of them takes a shot, and the other goes, oh, you missed. No, I didn't. How can you tell? He's invisible. Like, it's a lot of fun. And then like you have Vincent Price like subverting the police, as they're trying to find him by like wearing their outfits and stuff, and like getting his girlfriend out of the house through that. And then ultimately in the end, Vincent Price does get shot by the cops after he gets revenge on the real killers. And then they're trying to give him a blood transfusion because like they know that he's losing blood even though he's invisible. Like he's been shot. It's pretty clear that he's losing blood. And so like all the workers from Vincent Price's like gravel pit, I guess, that he runs, but they all, because they like him so much, they all like volunteer to give him a blood transfusion. And then it's really cool. You get to see the like different layers where you get to see the main blood vessels fill up first, and then like branches out into little veins, and then you see his bones come back, and then like his muscle tissue, and then he's finally fully visible again. And so they're actually able to save Vincent Price. And that's all really cool. I really liked The Invisible Man Returns. I would put it above the original. They're close, but I would put it above the original. I definitely think it does just about everything that the original does and more with the concept, which is really nice. And then after that, at first I was going to watch Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man, and then it wasn't like free or available to me, and so I ended up watching Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which is kind of weird title because that movie is Abbott and Costello Meet Dracula, who has Frankenstein with him, and they also meet the Wolfman, who is trying to stop Dracula. And that movie, it's a lot of fun. Like, they definitely, it's for sure, it's the like, oh, okay, we're getting to play, like, Abbott and Costello, we're getting to play with the Universal monsters. Like, yeah, let's get them all in here and like play around with that. And it's only right at the end that they have Vincent Price reprise his role as the Invisible Man. And he like tells them like, oh, I was hoping to get in on the fun, like, I'm the Invisible Man. And they get scared and they jump out of their boat. And so after seeing that, I was like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I'm actually excited for Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man, because like the Invisible Man movies have already been pretty funny, and I'm excited to see like Vincent Price again as the Invisible Man. I guess that's kind of funny to say see him as the Invisible Man, but hear him, I guess. Yeah, Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man does not follow on from the end of Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. It's just entirely new. Like, they don't recognize continuity whatsoever. And Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man is all about this boxer who is framed for murdering his manager. And so his scientist friend was also friends with the original Invisible Man, and so he gets the serum from his scientist man and is like out to prove his innocence and find the real killer. And that immediately like put me off, where I'm like, whoa, this is just the Invisible Man Returns, but worse. Like, but why would you do that? Like, why would you start that as your premise? You couldn't come up with a different premise for how Abbott and Costello meet the Invisible Man? And like, most of the time it's just, which feels really weird because like a lot of their humor is just entirely separate. Like it really feels like you'll have the Abbott and Costello like bits, and then they'll cut in for 5 minutes to do like the Invisible Man Returns but worse, and then cut back to like Abbott and Costello doing their bits. Like the most they ever really utilize the Invisible Man for bits is like he'll be talking and someone will hear that, and either Abbott or Costello will have to like take the fall for that. That or their big gag is that they make Costello is supposed to be like this super good boxer, and so because the Invisible Man now is a really good boxer, he just like fights for him, and everyone, which it's kind of funny in a meta sense, but like everyone in the universe is like, wow, he just hit him super fast. Like, was that an uppercut or a lower cut? Like, you know, it's like, what? Like, guys, he clearly didn't connect. Like, what are we talking about here? But yeah, it's such a weird, like, you know, there's definitely some good humor in it, but I was so put off by the fact that it's like, oh, okay, so I already know the story pretty much because it's the Invisible Man Returns, but worse. And like, I don't know why they wouldn't have just got Vincent Price back. Like, maybe it was too expensive, because there is, in this one, they reuse several special effects shots from The Invisible Man Returns, which was also kind of annoying to see, where it's like, damn, you really can't come up with anything original. You're just gonna be like, hey, look, it's the special effects from that movie. Like, hopefully you don't notice that it's an entirely different set and like all that stuff in the background. Hopefully it's a close enough shot that you don't notice that. Yeah, it was just, and like some of the gags, because you know, it's like I know it was I think Abbott and Costello might have been in the 50s at that point, maybe late 40s, but like some of the humor is like clearly like adult, or at least like I could see like family focused, and then some of the humor really seems like it's like for babies. Like, because they have one gag where Costello like takes the little watch the doctor's trying to like hypnotize him with to put him to sleep, and he just keeps like swinging it around, and then one person after another keeps entering the room, and he puts them to sleep, and it goes on for quite a bit, where it's like, damn, okay, like, I guess you guys thought this was really funny, like, you know, like, because it's a little amusing, like, when he does it the first time, and then, like, I like when they cut to Abbott coming in and, like, with some other people, and it's just a room full of, like, 20 different, like, sleeping people. Like, that's a funny gag, but it feels like it doesn't quite work when, like, you have to sit through at least, like, 5 of the people walking in the room. And, like, yeah, it's kind of annoying where, like, there's the second act low point is them, like, is the closest they get to trying to, like, build in a character for the third Invisible Man, and the only real thing that they do is just go, hey, yeah, he's an alcoholic. And it's like, oh, okay, are we gonna address that throughout the film? Nah. Nah, he's an alcoholic. Oh, okay. Um, and then, yeah, it was just, it bored me. It was, like, upsetting. I wouldn't recommend Abbott and Costello meet the Invisible Man. I would recommend The Invisible Man, and I would recommend The Invisible Man Returns. Both of those are really good films that hold up. Abbott and Costello is not, so I wouldn't recommend that one. Uh, yeah, I guess that's my brief thoughts on these three films. I hope you enjoyed, and happy Halloween!